Hello everyone, Air here, and before I start I have to apologize because I don't have Maiya myself and none of my friends or guildmate, nobody built her, so I don't have access to her skill animation, so this guide will be without her animation, but it's not too important because her skills are pretty straightforward. So we're going to look at the stats and compare Martyr class and Royal Maid class here. Martyr class has better survivability, higher defense, and a little bit more health. Intelligent wise, a little bit, slightly less, but the rest is pretty much the same. However, the Martyr class is a holy class, and Royal Maid is a mage class. So if you do want to, if you have full support, if you're using her as a full support, you want to probably use Martyr because survivability and the intelligence doesn't matter too much because she's kind of like a debuffer. She's like a Almeta, but she would do the job before rather than after. So if you're supporting and PvE, I think Martyr class is better, and Holy class has advantage against Demon, which PvE you're fighting mostly Demon. But in PvP wise, Apex, you probably want to use Royal Maid because you can't really get countered. Because if Holy class, you'll get countered by equipment. For accessory example, Judge Talisman, then you can get countered by that. And you do want a little bit more intelligent to deal a little bit more damage. In conclusion, Martyr for PvE support, Royal Maid for offensive and Apex. Super Maid, we'll look at 3 stars first. When an enemy unit is within 2 blocks, intelligence increases by 5%. So you need enemy near you to have this passive. Before actively dealing damage to enemies, gain a 50% chance to dispel one of the enemy's buffs and increase damage they take by 5%. Lasts 1 turn. After taking action, dispels 1 debuff from an ally within 2 blocks. Okay, so the first part is you need enemy to be close to you, so your intelligence increases. So whenever you attack, including AoE, you will have a chance to dispel enemy's buff and increase their damage being taken. The last 1 turn. So after taking action, so whenever you finish all your stuff, so it's different from Almeta. Almeta is after the action, she debuffs the enemy. So for her, she's going to dispel 1 debuff from an ally within 2 blocks. So 3-4 stars range is the same, except the intelligent difference, intelligent percent increases, and the damage they take also increase. And the 5 stars here starting to change a little bit. So instead of 2 blocks, you want the enemy unit is within 3 blocks, then this will trigger, and intelligence increases by 11%. And after you deal damage, you now have 80% chance to dispel one of the enemy's buffs and increase the damage they take by 15%. And then now you can dispel 1 debuff from an ally within 3 blocks. And it's RNG if you have multiple ally within range. So 6 star here is, of course, always the best. 15% intelligent, 100% chance to dispel, and they take damage by 20%. And the debuff wise is the same. So if I were to build Maiya, I wouldn't get her to 6 stars. I wouldn't waste farming shards on her, especially since she's not limited. She's in the general pool, and her 5 and 6 star doesn't make a big difference. The intelligence is 4%, that's not a lot, and 20%, the 20% probability is just not really worth farming the shards. And last would be the damage they take increase extra 5%. So instead of 15, it's 20%. So that's also not like that much. So I wouldn't farm her shards. Anyway, so that's how it works. She's gonna go in, attack someone, dispel their buff, and then your intelligence also increase. So just like a better version of Almeta, but not amazing. Better version of Almeta, I would say. Hero bonds. So the 4th bond is pretty much free to unlock because I assume everyone should have Narn by now. But the 5th bond is you need Ares, and Ares also needs Maiya. So you need each other to unlock. Intelligence is pretty important with Maiya in this case, so I think without Aries, probably shouldn't bother building her as of right now. Okay, not gonna lie, her skill set is pretty boring. She doesn't have a lot of unique skills like Aries. Free Strike we have here. Magic damage attacks a single enemy, dealing 1.5 times damage, and you'll deal more damage against Lancers. Magic Defend Break. Passive before battle 50% chance to reduce enemies' magic defense by 20% last one turn. So it's different than Lana's. Lana's after battle 100% reduce magic defense by 25%. This one's pretty good on Maiya because she is a debuffer and dispeller, so this is going to give her an extra chance. Unfortunately, only 50%, so not sure if it's worth gambling and using up that one skill slot. Cleanse. Magic damage attacks a single enemy, dealing 1.5 times damage with a bonus when battling against demons. Dispels 2 buffs from the target after battle. So this is 100% when you dispel 2 buffs. So including her passive, now you can dispel 3 buffs from the enemy. If they have faction buff, you basically leave them only with 1 buff. Decay, one of my favorite AoE. So magic damage attacks multiple enemies within range, dealing 0.3 AoE damage. Prevents enemy from receiving buffs last 2 turns. Sneak, passive, while attacking, crit increased by 10%. Damage taken decreased by 20%. With her soldier, she can survive against assassin with this passive. We'll talk about her soldier choices later in the video. Holy Shield. Okay, this is new, kind of. Passive, upon attacking and entering battle, magic defend plus 10%. Pretty useless, not gonna lie. Holy Missile. TRS also has this. It's pretty good. So magic damage attacks all enemies along one line, dealing 0.33 times AoE damage. Deals additional damage to demons. In addition, dispels 1 buff. So dispelling buff is good. Stacks with her passive. Okay, Ultimate Training Regimen. This makes her good. This is very unique. So passive, when equipped with melee soldiers, soldiering increases by 1. When using mage type soldiers, there's only 1. Gain immunity to fixed damage. So this is basically telling you to use a mask made soldier, because now the mask made can also attack into range. Any melee soldiers can attack to range. Ice Dragon's Breath. Magic damage attacks all enemies in 3 straight lines, dealing 0.36 times AoE damage. Super effective against, I don't know why I say super effective, just deal more damage against Lancer. Also reduces the enemy's mobility by 1 block for 2 turns. Pretty similar to Lambda's and Almeda's AoE. So also disable Tank's Guard because it lasts 2 turns, so it forces, when it comes to Apex, it forces the healer to dispel that, otherwise there's no blocking from the tank, because when the mobility is reduced, then they don't have guard. Alright, let's take a look at her 3C. Her 3C is very unique and is actually very, very good. So super cleanup, cost 3 costs, cooldown 5 turns, range self, spam 5. Magic damage, deals 0.3 times AoE damage to enemies within 5 spaces of self and dispel 1 buff. So the usage and the range is the same as Lana or Shifanio's Heaven Sanction. So you use it on yourself. You're not targeting an enemy, or you're not targeting a range and then you expand your AoE. So it's from yourself. And then and dispel 1 buff. If this dispel occurs, add 1 debuff. If there's a demon within range, repeat the previous effect until there are no buffs on the target. So which this means is, so there's a chance that you won't dispel because the enemy probably doesn't have a buff. Especially in PvE, you probably don't have a chance to use this. So it's mainly for PvP. And then if you dispel one thing, dispel one of their buff, and then you're going to add a debuff on top of that. So if there's a demon, if it's a demon within range, that is so easy to trigger. But unfortunately in Apex you won't see a lot of demons. So if there's a demon in range, then you'll keep repeating the effect. You're going to dispel and add a debuff, you dispel and add a debuff. If they have like a faction buff and then with additional other buffs, maybe 7 buffs, then you're going to dispel 7 buffs and then you're going to add 7 debuffs. So it's going to occur 100%. They cannot avoid that from happening. As long as there's a demon within range, it's within that 5 range. That's crazy range. But unfortunately in Apex, again, you won't see much demon. So this move is like, it's meh. Okay, so the next part is, in addition, reduces the effect on cooldown, effects on allies within range by 1 turn, dispel 1 debuff. If this dispel occurs, 1 buff is added. If the target is holy, repeat the previous effect until there are no debuffs on the target. So you're gonna dispel enemies buff and apply a debuff. And then you're gonna dispel your allies debuff and apply a buff. So if there's a holy unit in there, it'll keep dispelling your debuff and then keep adding the same amount of dispel that you did on the debuff. Does that make sense? It's a little bit confusing. Here it says reduces the effect on cooldown. It's not the skill on cooldown, it's the effect. So what it means is the following. So these are some of the examples of effect cooldown. Recommended weapon. Red Moon is really good. Max Intelligent, and for survivability gives you that HP plus 5%. Okay, next we have Astaroth. Okay, I think I spelled this wrong. Okay, whatever. So anyway, since she is a debuffer slash dispeller, whatever you call it, this weapon will make her even more scary because now you have 30% chance to stun the enemy on top of all the other dispel and debuff. Miracle Staff would probably be my most recommended staff for Maiya because she does have 3 AoE skills, and so this one deals more AoE damage, and now there's a 30% chance to apply 1 debuff. If I were to use Maiya, I would use her to be annoying in Apex just to dispel their buff and not let them buff their team, because she does have DK. DK is very good in Apex, and with Miracle Staff it's going to deal more debuff, so they can't buff themselves, and now you deal more debuff, so they're just going to be weaker and weaker. In other words, if you're using her as AoE focus, use Miracle Staff. If you're using Maiya as a support, then Gift of Eternal is a very decent choice, because now you can dispel enemies buff and then dispel allies debuff, and then you can also heal after every attack. Pale Staff is also very good if you use a lot of single target attacks such as Free Strike and Cleanse, but I think if you don't have high intelligence, don't bother using Pale Staff. If you have high intelligence, this makes her very scary. Recommended armor. Every mage's best armor would be the Tenyo's Robe because it adds survivability and it gives a chance to do a debuff, dispelling a buff. Next we have Baldur's White Robe. This one's really good on her. I think aside from Tenyo, this is probably the second best, or might be the best. It really depends how you play her. The stats is not very good because magic defense plus 10% is really whatever, but it's the effect that's good. When attacked with a melee attack, 20% to negate melee penalty, which means you can deal full damage even at melee range. Because Maiya is 2 range attacker, but with her passive, she can equip 1 melee range soldier. However, the melee range soldier with her passive can already attack 2 range, but if you get attack and this procs, now you're going to do full damage from your soldier, melee soldier, and also from Maiya. Last we have Death Robe. I think this is good for adding survivability since she can equip melee soldiers. This gives her a very high chance to survive against assassins. Okay, recommended helmet. Tenyo's headdress is good for survivability and if you want to play as a support. Regardless, it's probably the best for her because she can't really go full offense. She's like half support and half offense. Soul Stealer headdress is also very good because now you have an extra chance to deal the strongest debuff in the game, which is silence. And again, she's hard to do full offense, but Soul Steel headdress I consider it a little bit more on the support side rather than offense side. If you don't have any of these two helmets, any helmet that adds intelligence is good. But one helmet I don't recommend is Charon, because Charon, her talent overlaps this effect. Especially if she is 6 stars, then this one's useless because 6 stars gives 20% extra damage dealt on enemy, and this one's only 15%. Fidar's Rose is very good because she has skills that dispel buff, and then her talent also dispel buff. So this one only gives you more chance to dispel more buffs. So total she can dispel 3 to 4 buffs if you use cleanse and including her talent. Her strong skills have a pretty long cooldown, so Dimensional Jewel can definitely help reduce that. Eye of the Beholder is the opposite of Charon, so it makes them deal less damage. So this one is not in her talent. Enchant Choices. I think Clock is probably the best, especially when you want AoE spam and tank push. So this allows you to keep spamming her stuff. You can keep debuffing and dispelling. Especially her best 2 skills are 5 turn cooldown, so this will allow you to use it every other turn if it procs. Breeze is also very good because her mobility is very low and its damage dealt increased by 10%. So if you have very high intelligence, that plus 10% is an overall damage, so even works on AoE. If you use a lot of single shot skill like Cleanse, then I think Breeze will be a little bit better than Clock. Lastly, we have Magic. If you want to have optimal damage, so Magic is good for boosting skill damage and AoE damage. Okay, last part of the guide. Recommended soldiers. Darth Venture. It increases her AoE damage. That's pretty much it. Downside is that it makes all her skill becomes a straight line. Alright, we have Mask May here, and this is pretty weird. So do you remember her passive Ultimate Training Regimen here? When equipped with melee soldiers, soldier range increases by 1. So Masked Maid is a melee soldier, and when using maid type soldiers, which is Masked Maid, this is the only maid type soldiers. Well, there's the shittier one, the tier 2 one, but anyway, so gain immunity to fixed damage. So she's not gonna hurt herself. She won't lose that 10 to 5% health, but if she doesn't sacrifice that 10 to 5% of the unit's current HP, it probably would not increase the soldier attack, defense, and magic defense by 45%. So it is something I really want to test out, but unfortunately I don't have Maiya. So if anyone knows, let me know, but I feel like this should be her best soldier. Maybe she just doesn't get the bonus, but she's still going to deal decent damage, and she's able to have higher defense because of melee soldier. Samurai is also very good. So if you don't want to bring her regiment passive, you can use Samurai. Now you save 1 skill slot. However, Samurai is very rare, like not a lot of heroes can use it, so you need like heavy investment. Alright guys, thank you once again for watching this, and I hope you guys find this informative. I hope you guys have a better understanding how to use Maiya and how to build her. Once again, if you find this useful, it's something that you like to watch, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to my channel. See you guys next time, bye bye.